Thank you very much for joining me for the second of our new series of NeuRA Talks. And this one I think is going to be particularly interesting because we're going to be looking at the issue of women in STEM. And I have with me three wonderful women who have very successful careers in science and medicine: Professor Carolyn Sue, Professor Lynne Bilston, and Dr. Kim van Schooten. So I know this is going to be a good one. But just to depress us all right at the start, I'll throw in a couple of statistics. Women make up 37% of enrolments in university STEM courses in Australia. And again, in Australia, only 15% of STEM qualified jobs are held by women. So you three are all rebels and have defeated the system. Congratulations. Okay, Lynne, I'm going to go to you first because you are a biomechanical engineer. And this obviously is a field that has had gender imbalances historically. Have you faced any specific challenges?
I've certainly faced many. So one of the nice things about biomedical engineering is that it's a little bit less gender imbalanced than some of the classical engineering disciplines. So mechanical engineering, where I started, has only about 10% women, and it's still only about 10 to 15%. But biomedical engineering is more 40-60, so it's always been a little bit better. Some of the real challenges are understanding other people, and if you're in a minority with any minority, you're always going to find that you're not always part of the mainstream, and that can be a bit of a challenge. Having people understand and expect, and even very well-meaning often, people trying to understand how to relate to a woman can be quite interesting at times. I remember an amusing story even when I was a student where one of the professors thought that they needed to have examples in the classes that would appeal to women. And his idea of those was to put in things about hairdryers and washing machines. We soon suggested that perhaps he could go with cars and robots and things, and that women were actually just as interested in tech as men. And so those are some of the things that you can face. As long as everybody can maintain a sense of humour, then you can usually use that to your advantage and use that as a bonding thing, and everybody will laugh about it later. But certainly there are always challenges being a bit different in a field.
I understand. What do you think can be done to encourage more women to pursue careers in biomechanics and STEM?
So I think, as your statistics at the beginning indicated, a lot of people start these careers, and the big gap for us at the moment is maintaining and retaining people in those careers. And so that's really some of that's about time and changing the culture, but also allowing for the fact that women need to take time out for families, and increasingly so are men. So I think that will actually equalise over time, and that's one of the great things about NeuRA is that we do have those equal accommodations for both men and women to take parental leave. But it's really about making sure that as women progress through their careers that they don't fall out of what we call the leaky pipeline, and allowing for different stages of everybody's lives to ensure that women have the support as they progress through their careers, not just at the beginning. It's not just about getting us in there, but really keeping us and supporting women throughout their careers. And women can do that for each other. But I think also, men in the workplace also need to be aware that they play a role, and it's in engineering, particularly in traditional engineering disciplines, it's not about making the women behave like men. It's about adapting the work environment to suit everybody who's working there and making it equally welcoming and accommodating for everybody, not just expecting the women who are in a minority, or for example, for any other minority in fact, to fit in with the dominant culture.
Do you have any advice for young women hoping to pursue this kind of career?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I've really found is that it's both a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. So one of the nice things about being a woman, particularly in a STEM-dominated field or a very male-dominated field when I started out, was that people remember me, right? I'm unusual, or I was unusual, less so now, and that's actually an advantage. So use the advantages, use your sense of humour, and stick to your guns. You don't need to be a man to be successful. You just need to be you, and don't give up. And when things get hard, reach out to your friends, your colleagues. There'll be other people around you, whether they're in your organisation or outside, who have been through it and can support you. Find an older woman, more experienced woman, or even for that man, could be a man for that matter, who's able to help you through those challenges when you just need someone to talk to you and tell you can do it. And I think that's one of the main things that I find for younger women, is that often they really do think that they can't do something when really they can, they just haven't done it before. And just to be confident in your own skills and your own abilities, and you can do it. You're just as good as any man, so go for it.
Carolyn, I'll go to you now. So one of the things that actually I'm really proud about is that at NeuRA we have a high proportion of women, about 64% of our workforce, and many of those are amongst our research leaders. And you joined us probably about a year ago, but you know, from a great and glorious past in terms of leading Parkinson's disease and mitochondrial donation research, leading departments in hospitals, and also leading an institute. Tell us about your leadership style.
Well, my leadership style is really about finding a clear purpose and also working with people. So, for example, with Parkinson's disease, I've always wanted to look after people with Parkinson's disease. I wanted to help people with Parkinson's disease. My mentors taught me that it was a valuable sort of pursuit. So that's how you start. So unless you have a clear purpose, then to lead in a role like that it's a harder task. Once you decide and have that sort of clear purpose, then trying to inspire people to join the team, join in that journey, then comes, and then that's you have to use your leadership skills to try and enable people to pursue that purpose with you, and then you have to have the leadership skills to help keep that all going, so that you manage to achieve. But what's crucial about leadership is that you need the team to achieve the goal that you've set yourself. This sort of journey you can't get through unless you sort of have a village of people around you. But there are some notable ones. Obviously the mentor that I had when I first started out, who led me along the path of Parkinson's disease. To be honest with you, he also led me into the path of mitochondrial disease. And so these are the sort of patient groups that I really try and focus on in terms of our own research activities. But along the path I've had amazing mentors, people who have been very, very positive. So I particularly like those ones. I used to have a postdoc supervisor and mentor who really celebrated the wins that we had, all of the achievements that we had. And it made me think that, you have to stop and really pause and celebrate what you've managed to achieve before you actually take on the next task, which may even be harder to achieve. So I think he taught me all about that. Scientific mentors as well, who've really taught me to embrace scientific investigation, new technologies, new methods, to be critical in thinking. And then other leadership mentors who actually taught me how to build a team so that we can really enjoy, setting to the difficult tasks at hand sometimes. Always happy to have more mentors for specific purposes, and very much grateful to the people who have mentored me, and then also happy to mentor other people so that it can be passed on through the profession.
Thank you. I touched on my confidence earlier in my career. I don't know how yours has been. It's a challenge for many. How did you build your confidence as a leader?
Well, I'm not sure if I am confident. Look, I think again, this is where mentorship happens. Also, as you have achievements, and to me, to be honest with you, I'm a clinician, so I have patients, and they also are very good at feeding back to what they have really appreciated in the partnership that we have with our patients, how we treat them, how we care for them. So all of that sort of feedback that you can get, all of the input that you can get from other people help to instill that confidence that you're going ahead. And to be honest with you, it's a responsibility that we have to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the right people in hopefully the right way, so that we can again continue that journey along where we're goal orientated as we try and go forward and achieve whatever we might be able to get done.
Actually, I think it's really nice that you mentioned the patients, and I'd probably say the same thing for all of you in terms of whether it's patients or clinical trial participants. I imagine they help to keep you grounded and focused on your purpose and build your confidence.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we have to, see, for me, patients, it can be study participants, it can be fellow researchers. You need to have that accountability with the colleagues, and that not only spurs you and keeps you on the straight task, but also makes you responsible for your actions and helps you improve as you're trying to work together so that you can achieve those goals. I think leadership's a big part about that.
Kim, I'll come to you last but not least. Obviously you are kind of younger, shall I say that, in terms of your career trajectory than any of the other of us. So, and I know you have 3 very young kids, right? Under 3?
3 and under.
So achieving a work-life balance, which of course everybody thinks is a very wonderful goal, can be particularly challenging in that situation and also in a STEM career. How do you manage it?
It's a very good question, particularly now. So we've got 3 kids, aged 3 and under. My husband is away for 2 weeks for work. Ooh. So I'm managing everything at home by myself, and it is hard work. So work-life balance is hard, but what helps me is to sort of put it in perspective. I read some articles about it, and what I saw was that only 15% of people are confident about their work-life balance. So that means that 85% of people are struggling, just like everyone, or like most people. And I think that's the case. And for me at the moment, it's hard work, but what helps is just to be very organized and very efficient in what I do. So in the morning, kids wake up, we go to daycare, and I just go behind my computer and do what I need to do. And then I pick them up, feed them dinner, put them to bed, and then I do a little bit of additional work. And what really helps me with that as well, are just managing throughout this period, but also managing my workload throughout my entire work life, I guess, is having a good team. So I know that at the moment I'm probably putting a little bit less weight than what I would normally pull, but I've got members in the team that can sort of pick that up and keep us going and jump in when I need the support. So a team is super important here, I think, as well.
Thank you. I'm just going to cut back to Lynne and Carolyn for a moment. So Lynne, you're both at a slightly different stage with your families. Yours are coming out of the teenage years, right, at the tail end?
Yeah, so my daughter is in first year university, she's 19, and my son is 24, and he has finished university and is working now. So yes, we've come out of the black hole of young child time. They're just such they're special people, and their kids are, and the workload is different at every age, but you've just got to take the joy. There are times when they're really challenging and it's really hard, and it takes a village. And I think these days, our friends and our networks, I don't have family in Sydney, so my girlfriends in particular, we have this close network where we all just helped and picked up the slack, and when somebody's away, you might make a meal for that family, all those kinds of things when a partner's away or when you're traveling. And I think that village, you have to create your own village if you don't have one already, and just enjoy the time you have with them, and don't try and kill yourself. Don't try and be the perfect parent. Your job is to make them come out the other end of their childhood as functioning, decent adults. They don't have to be a prince or a princess. So take your time, enjoy them, and don't get too caught up in competitive parenting.
Yeah, no. It's interesting, having been a perfectionist all my life, it wasn't until I had my daughter that I realised there was such a thing as good enough.
Oh yeah.
So that's actually been one of the lessons that I've tried to pass on to her with varying degrees of success. But Carolyn, and yours are still in their teens?
Yes, I've got an older child who is 22, so again halfway through between yours, Lynne, and then I have a younger child who is 13. So yeah, I'm in the middle, I guess, of
You're sort of straddling two eras, aren't
yes,
you? Yes,
absolutely, 100%. And look, to be honest with you, the children, help you, and in fact, they demand that you have work-life balance. So the fact that you're even, having the children and that we've got children, I think that actually contributes to work-life balance, because I wouldn't give it up for the world. I enjoy my family life, and they help me and enhance my work life. And they also are in competition sometimes with, it's fair to say, with your work life. And so trying to achieve that balance is a real struggle. And something that you really do need to be mindful to try and achieve, or attempt to achieve. Because if you don't try, and if you're not pushing towards that goal, then you never will.
Thank you, Kim. I'll go back to you. Sorry for that departure, but are there any special skills or qualities that you think are particularly valuable that female leaders bring into the STEM industry?
It's a hard question, because I believe that people are diverse, so that it's not per se a gender thing. Although what I've seen in my career is that women tend to, so I'm generalizing, but that women tend to have the ability to have more of a helicopter view and sort of make sure that we all work towards the same common goal, as opposed to going only for their own goals. So that's something that maybe due to caring responsibilities that are sort of forced on women or girls from a young age. Maybe that's where it arises from. That's something that I see in women leaders.
Okay, thank you. And last question for you, and then I'll have a question for each of you. If institutions could make just one change to create a more inclusive environment for female scientists, clinicians and leaders, what would that be?
Yeah. So I think that's something that we actually do very good here at NeuRA, and that's flexible working. So I am able to manage my workload, and I have a bit of a work-life balance because I do full-time work in 4 days and a few evenings. That allows me to be with my kids 1 day extra a week, but it also allows me to just keep going with the research and not having to say no to opportunities that arise. So, and I see that in our team as well. So being able to work outside of working hours or normal working hours, or work on days that you have the opportunity to work, that's really important, I think.
I think that's really, really important. Yeah. To our points about work-life balance and kind of somehow managing to do it all, which is what we have to do. Yeah. I think if you can kind of do it all in your own time, and in your own venue and all of that kind of stuff, that makes a big difference.
That makes a huge change. Yeah. And I think COVID has really sort of forced us to experience this. And I think what we're seeing within our team, and probably within NeuRA and a lot of other workplaces, is that it actually works really well. Because some tasks you're just way more efficient if you're doing it at home at a time that works for you, as opposed to trying to do it, force it at moments that don't work with you.
Okay, so my final question, and I'll invite each of you to address it, because it will have been a slightly different experience, I think, for each of you. It's a hard question, because in science, what happens when you have to take time out to have children? What happens to your career? And does the system make any accommodations for that work? Carolyn, you want to go first?
So what happens in practical terms is that things tend to sort of slow down and grind to a halt. And so there's a time when you have to really work out whether you can try and keep things sort of ongoing, whilst they're not being driven forward. So that's usually the scenario that happens. So I certainly tried when I was having my family to keep things going. I wasn't pushing it or accelerating things forward as quickly as I could, because I was taking the time out to address the other parts of my life that needed to keep on going forward. And so you have to accept that that's going to happen, first of all. Because diagnosing the problem, or actually identifying the problem, is the first thing, and then making plans to address that, knowing that you're on hold for a little bit, and then making plans to actually get from that on hold sort of slow progress back into pushing things forward. So that's what happens in reality.
Understood. Kim, and I'm just thinking, maybe for you, is that where your team kind of came in behind you? Were you able to keep things going then through delegating more to your team?
Yeah, so in part definitely. The clinical trials kept going, we kept collecting data, but a lot of the wearable sensor work, which I lead and do a lot of the analysis for, they came to a halt. Just because there's no one in my team with the expertise to sort of take that over. And I really resonate with what Sue was just saying about that, yeah, I'm sort of in the midst of getting started again. I had a baby 11 months ago. He's getting bigger, and I'm just getting things started, excited to get going again. Yeah. Just figuring out how to balance that workload with the additional workload of having 3 kids now.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand what it means to work efficiently until you have small children and you're trying to balance getting everything done at work. What you do learn, and what's a good strategy, is to be very clear about what you want to achieve in a day and achieve it, and then take your time out to spend with your family. And I think you've got to value your family because they'll be there hopefully forever. And they need investment just as much as your team does. I think the things that are really challenging is that people recognise when you take parental leave and your periods, whether you're out completely or you're part-time for a period, but when you do come back and then that transition, supporting people so that, particularly if you're in a very competitive scientific career and you need to keep not only your research going, but you need to keep travelling to keep up with the field internationally, and opportunities to support young parents, whether they're male or female, to take their kids with them and bring a carer, for example. Those kinds of things can mean that you can maintain that career at the level that you need to, while still looking after your kids and your family life. So I think there are accommodations that can and need to be made. The flexible work is, as Kim said, really important, something that wasn't really available to me at the time when I had my children when they were young. But I think I see now with some of my staff that it's really a benefit for them that they can work efficiently that way, and they can then work at the times that are around their family.
Well, I think both Carolyn and Lynne have paved the way, perhaps, for people like Kim. And Kim, I'm sure that you will keep waving the flag, or whatever the right expression is, for women in STEM and paving the way for that next generation. Some great practical advice and personal insights into that issue of the challenges for women in STEM. I think the future looks bright. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.